Government reform. I know you're excited, right? In the next 300 seconds, we're going to look at how reforms could actually, well, maybe reform our government. I know it's crazy talk. Now, if we don't want the same thing, we have to think way outside the box. So we're going to go to ancient Athens, which is actually the birthplace of democracy. Now, they had notions on governance that was frighteningly brilliant and amusingly direct, as opposed to our form of government, which is ineptly frightening and obliquely amusing. Now, in Athens, people were not elected to most public offices. They were chosen at random by the voting population by lottery. Yeah, they did it by lottery. Now, this did lessen corruption and it encouraged active participation in government. But the greatest benefit was they had representation that more truly represented their citizenry than we do today, even though only males were eligible. Now, imagine if our House of Representatives was chosen by lottery, served there 2 years, and then returned home. It would probably look more like the population of the USA instead of a country club in Minnetonka. All right, so let's contrast the House versus the general population. The House is 85% white, 89% male. About half of them are lawyers. 40% are millionaires. And we wonder why they don't understand us or represent us. Now, with a lottery system, over the next 30 years, 120 of your fellow Minnesotans would serve in the House. You or someone you know would go to Congress. How would that change your knowledge of how our government works? And how would that change your relationship with our government? Now, no elections for the House means no campaign donations. Corporations, unions, special interests, they're going to have to wait until the person's already in office before they try to bribe them. And they'll have to start over every 2 years bribing a new person. Exile. Oh, God, how I wish we had exile. All right, once a year in Athens, voters could decide if they wanted someone to be exiled. So they would write down the name of the person they wanted banished, and if that person got a supermajority of votes, they were exiled for 10 years. Now, this kept a person from becoming too powerful or having too large of an influence on government. And they couldn't vote. They also couldn't have business dealings with other Athenian citizens. Now, just think how instituting exile could change the behavior of some of our politicians and citizens if they knew they could be booted off the island. Now, I know I would cast my winning vote for Charlie Sheen. You could pick Michelle Bachmann or Mark Dayton, up to you. Now, Athens was no less lawsuit crazy than we are. Now, they also had their share of crime, and they had legal representation, they had juries very much like we do. But I think we could learn something from how they did sentencing. Say you get caught having sex with your neighbor's sheep. Oh yeah, you laugh, but this happens way more than you think. Now, you're found guilty by a jury. What happens next? All right, if this happened in Athens, you, the sheep fucker, would now need to propose your own punishment. The jury would then vote to decide if it was severe enough. And if not, you're the one that's going to get fucked. Because if the jury doesn't accept your proposed punishment, your neighbor, who owned the poor little sheep, decides your punishment. Now, they may decide to have you pay a fine or humiliate you, or like Socrates, they might kill you by having you drink hemlock. Your choice. So the key would be to come up with a punishment that was bad enough for the jury to accept, but without totally throwing yourself under the bus. Now, did any of your parents do that to you, or did you do that to your parents or to your children, where you have to come up with your own punishment? That completely sucks. Not only did you do something bad, and then you got caught, but now you're responsible for the punishment. And you can't even bitch about your punishment because you did it all to yourself. And that, my friends, is true justice. Now, there's more ideas that we can glean from Athens. They directly voted on major issues, like voting whether to go to war or not. They divided up their own budget. And there's other ideas from other parts of the world, different time periods, where people experimented with this thing called democracy. But the thing I want you guys to take away from this is, if we want our government to work differently, we got to try some different things. Now, some of the ideas might be a little wild, but after you go home and you let the ideas marinate a little bit with some beer, you might warm up to them. Because who knows, a grassroots movement could be born right here at Ignite Minneapolis. Because after all, Radical politics and healthy-sized mugs of beer is how the US Revolution started. Thank you.